Hello, and welcome to the Angus and Pete Show. Views and opinions are strictly those of the presenters and their guests and should not be taken as advice. Goodness knows, we're not qualified to advise you about anything. Side effects may include mild amusement and occasional enlightenment with feelings of embarrassment, apathy, disappointment, and pity.
Welcome to Series 2, Episode 6. I'm Angus Pacey.
And I'm Pete Brown, and we are the Angus and Pete Show.
The place where you can listen to two guys chatting about the riveting world of customer engagement.
Customer engagement, otherwise known as call centre, contact centre, customer service, customer experience, CX, or whatever else you're calling it this week.
And if you want to know more about us, then just check us out on LinkedIn.
Angus, as this is our last show before Christmas, did we get any Christmas cards?
Yeah, we did.
Ooh.
We did. Michael from Geneva contacted us and said he's listened to both of the CX Insider episodes in the series. Uncle Ken, who was episode 2, and Richard in episode 5.
Yeah.
And he said he really loved them. Are we going to do more? And the answer to that one is yes. We've got plans for some senior people from all over the industry, procurement manager, a CFO if we're lucky enough to get him, a social media guru, which I think will be very interesting, and other industry experts as well. So there's lots more to come. The other one was Sarah from Glasgow dropped a long email to us. And she said she had a real travel nightmare. She was trying to change her Christmas flight and obviously trying to call into a call center, but all the systems were failing for her. She had multiple disconnections, multiple calls into the contact center. The automation wasn't working. She had to repeat herself on numerous occasions. And when she finally did get through to them, she spoke to somebody who was more candid than probably the bosses want. And they let it slip that they were having problems all day due to a systems upgrade that didn't go as planned.
Wow.
So the question is, and she said it, why would you mess around with stuff at your busiest time of the year?
Well, Angus, we were looking for something seasonal, weren't we, for this episode?
Yeah.
And nothing says Yuletide festivity like the Christmas change freeze. And for those of you who are thinking, hang on a minute, we're already in our change freeze, you're a bit late for this year. We're not late for this year, we're just really early for next year. We're giving you as much time to prepare as possible. So, change freeze.
That blessed period where IT and ops teams effectively put everything on us, and they all hope that if nothing moves, nothing breaks. It's a topic that really affects everything from the huge IT systems down to the poor sod working in the contact center that has to deal with all these irate or panicked customers that are trying to change their flights.
The change freeze. We're going to try and thaw out this topic for our non-technical audience. We'll cover what it is, weigh up the pros and cons, look at the best ways to implement one, and maybe even share a few stories.
And you know what? This is where tech meets human emotion. I think we need to keep bringing this back to what it means for the customer service teams and also now for consumers calling in, chatting, emailing in when everything goes horribly wrong. So, Pete, let's start with the basics. So for those listeners who just see an email saying no changes until January, we've seen those internally. What exactly is a change freeze for those people that don't know what a change freeze is?
Essentially, it's a predefined period where you don't make any significant or non-essential changes to systems. You don't bugger about with stuff that's working. The strategy is employed during periods of big demand and big demands on systems that need to be stable and operating during that period. So it's a vital component in any IT service management process, and it's really a safeguard for the integrity and availability of services, and therefore a safeguard for the whole customer experience.
So if you think about it from a customer service lens, that no change message is really shorthand for we're protecting the platforms that your agents, customer service reps rely on so it can actually help the customers instead of apologizing for the outages.
Yeah.
It's a safety net. Why does this happen around Christmas? Is this just festive exhaustion and the tech teams want to get some downtime because they've been working the whole year?
It does happen at other times, but Christmas is the big one. It's about managing risk, and it's about resource availability and capacity. So if you think about it, the time between mid-December and early January sees a massive surge in both operational demand. Christmas is a busy period. And that typically coincides with people taking their holidays.
Yeah.
The genius of the use it or lose it leave policy really comes and bites you in the arse at this time of year. I can only carry 5 days over if I'm lucky. And because I've been worked like a dog all year, I've got 15 days left. So I'm going to take them all over Christmas. So what you end up with is this double whammy that sees high demand and limitations around resources hit you at the same time.
Yeah, customer-facing teams feel this twice over. More customers needing help and fewer people on the phones to do the chats or manage the social media queues. So the last thing you want to do is add to the problem with the self-inflicted system change that goes wrong.
If half your technical team is off celebrating with their family and something breaks, the time it takes to fix it, that time to resolution goes up dramatically.
Yeah, exactly. So in theory, by restricting the change, companies are effectively trying to increase their system stability by just reducing the risk profile. A good example of that is a major bank implementing an IT change freeze before the end of year financial closing period, simply mitigating the risk of errors or data issues during the reporting period. So it's not always related to Christmas. This could be corporate requirements.
Absolutely. Long outages and problems can mean regulatory breaches. It can mean reputational damage. It can mean all sorts of unintended consequences. So it's something that can be irritating. It's something that can be misunderstood, but change freezes are a critical part of being a responsible service provider.
Let's drill down a little bit into the thinking behind this and why the change freeze is seen as such a crucial tool. If I had to just explain it simply, it's a very prescriptive framework that makes sure you don't make mistakes.
Exactly. The best way to minimize risk is not to change anything.
Don't do it. If it's working, don't touch it.
But we know that in the world we live in at the moment, where technology is moving rapidly and businesses want to be agile and they want to iterate, change is good, but it needs to be controlled.
A good example, if you run a big e-commerce platform, restricting deploying new code protects you against service disruptions just at that point in time when traffic is spiking and shoppers have got a high intent to purchase.
If your automation and your e-commerce platforms aren't working, you ramp up calls into your contact center and it very quickly snowballs. Spikes in problems result in spikes in complaints, which result in spikes in stressed customers and stressed agents.
And don't forget, the agents are trying to do the best that they can. If the underlying technology is stable due to the freeze, those agents really focus on handling the extreme volumes of frustrated customers that are just trying to get their stuff done.
The advantages are obvious. What about disadvantages?
Look, as seductive as the promise of stability is, experienced IT pros will always argue that a long change freeze doesn't actually improve stability or reduce stress. They will argue that it can create problems that pile up at the beginning and the end of the change freeze period because they become frenetic periods.
So that's the famous mad dash effect.
Yeah.
You know the freeze is coming, so what do? You try and cram everything in beforehand, and that in itself creates issues. I've seen situations where the mad dash has created pressure, caused mistakes, which then manifest themselves in the change period. Have a think about the realities of what that means and what behaviour that drives in your people.
Everybody's going to be rushing everything. They're knackered. They're under pressure, especially late November, early December, trying to get stuff in. They're going to end up making poor decisions. That's going to lead to mistakes. And the real irony of this is that in that mega rush to avoid the freeze is going to introduce the bugs that freeze is meant to prevent.
It can be quite damaging to momentum and to the continuity of thought and continuity of implementation. That's something else to bear in mind. It's a real factor in planning and thinking about your change freeze strategy.
So following on from the challenges around that, what should be best practice? How do you really plan for success? How do you think you can manage it without creating total chaos?
The foundation is early planning. Let's talk about our Christmas change freeze. Organisations need to start planning just after the half year. So June, July, August time, you need to start thinking about it. ensuring that all stakeholders are aware. All stakeholders are aware. Don't just go to the business on the 21st of December and say, oh, you know that freeze we mentioned in July? Well, it started a week ago. That's why nothing's happening. Too late. Everyone needs to understand. Everyone needs to play their part, and everyone needs to know where they are in terms of their responsibilities for the procedure and sign off and decision making during that freeze period. Everyone.
That stakeholder list must include customer service and the contact center leadership. And I think quite often those guys get forgotten because they can translate the freeze dates into the impacts. They've got to pause. They know what they need to do in order to lock down. And they also need to deal with staffing issues. So they've got to ramp up for the season, and they've also got to cross-train people because some have gone off on leave and they need to get people to cover for them.
So we're not saying that IT has to think about all of those things, but what we are saying is if you clearly communicate what's going on, when it's going on, why it's going on, and what your expectations are of leadership in your departments, then that is a recipe for success. So using simple, non-technical language and making sure that everyone understands the key dates for the freeze start, freeze finish, and what actually happens during those times is important.
The other thing that's really important is how you communicate this to customers.
It's often very internally focused. I wonder how forgiving Sarah would have been if she'd have known that there was a change freeze going on and things haven't gone according to plan, but we're really working on it. That's a bit different to just throwing her under the bus and making her deal with the crap without any explanation.
Sometimes a bit of transparency will help. Put banner notices on the website. Update those holding messages for people that are stuck in the queue. And just be transparent about it. Tell people what's going on. Because if they know, they are far more willing to work with you.
Something else that I've heard of is a phased approach, a partial freeze. Low risk changes, they can be performed with less scrutiny, but higher risk, higher profile changes need to go through much more of a rigorous process before they get permitted or rejected.
Clever teams that are focused on customer experience improvements, which can reduce the pressure later, updating help articles on the website, refining chatbot flows for common seasonal questions, and maybe just tweaking the routing rules based on things that they learned last year can make a real difference. So still make changes, just considered changes.
So there's an element of flexibility in this. What about real exceptions? Emergencies, critical situations arise where you've just got to do something. What can we say about that?
Make a very clear and I would say simple process for managing real urgent or emergency changes. This might include the changes that are security related. What are you going to do if you have real break-fix work? What happens if a server fails or one of your hardware components goes down or the cloud goes down, which we've seen a couple of times recently?
And do you know what, Angus? On all of those occasions, the cloud went down because somebody buggered about with something.
Yep.
And it had unintended, unforeseen consequences.
And that brings up when you get a mega problem, what do you need to do to prevent those legal, financial or reputational risks? How are you going to deal with that? And importantly, it's not only about making sure you've got all the forms and the approval templates ready to go. What are you going to communicate?
When it comes to the customer service piece in particular, you should have a playbook for your people. If there are issues, if there are glitches, if there are problems, these are the words you use. This is how you communicate it. And don't leave Sarah listening to the poor agent. Make it clear to your people what you expect them to do and say if there's a problem.
Yeah, because if you don't, they're going to blurt out whatever they feel like saying. And maybe they will inadvertently say something that you really don't want to get out by accident. So emergency changes during a freeze always require senior management sign-off, and I think you need a process in there to make sure that it is a real requirement. You need a very clear exception criteria and then an escalation matrix up front that everybody understands. That'll ensure that the approval process is streamlined. And then the other thing which people forget and don't always want to do, after the freeze is over, go and conduct a review of what happened. What were the incident rates and how good the communication was, and build something for the next year.
One of the great things about the customer service contact center environment is we've got lots of data, right? So use it for planning, use it for change freeze planning. You learn from your mistakes, and if you're going to make mistakes, do them better next time. We've said that the Christmas change freeze is where system instability meets high customer emotion. And we've already spoken about Sarah and her ordeal. It's all about that disconnection.
Yeah.
It hits her trust, it hits her emotionally, and it's just an unpleasant, unnecessary, poor customer experience. And it just highlights how important those processes are.
It's a good example of the breakdown of the process. At this time of year, tensions are high, stability is absolutely essential. And from a contact center perspective, best practice is preparation. We've got the analytics. We can forecast call volumes. You can make sure that your automation and your AI agents and your old school bots are available for common queries. They should be dealing with tracking orders, and they should be freeing up the human agents for those complex, high emotion issues. I bet you Sarah was pretty emotional by the time she got through to that agent.
So as well as pressure testing your systems, empower your agents to deal with these situations as well as telling them what to say. I think we spoke in a previous episode about empowering agents at the front line to resolve things within certain bounds. If this situation happens, you can go a little bit further than you might normally. I can't help feeling that if Sarah was given some clue that there might be issues, if Sarah had clear communication when she finally got through to somebody, those two things might have made her feel a little bit better about the whole thing.
An interesting example, because you talk about empowering agents in this peak period. I saw a post on LinkedIn from Joe. He was trying to buy himself a Christmas present. You know, one of those 2 dad from dad presents.
Oh, yeah.
And something went wrong in the process. I think he had gift cards that weren't working, and his order of his drone went sideways. He got hold of the retailer. Agent was all over it. She sorted the problem, got him to the point that he could order again. Drone out of stock. Reading further down in his post, the drone came back into stock. The agent placed the order for him, gave him a couple of pennies refund to square the difference between his gift card value and how much the drone actually was, and sorted the whole problem out. I mean, the customer experience for Joe, gift card not working, drone going out of stock, that is a recipe for poor customer experience. Yep. Agent turned it around because she was empowered.
So putting it all together, the principle is that stable underlying systems protected by a freeze allow human beings to be human beings, allow that human touch to shine through, even in the face of issues. If you're prepared, if you're empowered, you can turn a problem into a nice experience. And there may be problems. One of my favourite quotes of all time is, "You can't varnish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter."
I've heard that one a couple of times.
Right. So, but do you know what I mean? There are always going to be problems, but it's the way that you deal with them, and it's the way that you package them, and ultimately it's the way that you make people feel about them. Angus, let's put a nice Christmas wrapper around this. What are our takeaways from this episode?
3 takeaways. First one for me was understand the why and the when.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing it? Change freeze is a risk mitigation strategy. We've gone through in detail. It halts non-emergency changes during that real peak retail financial year in business period when staff are tired, they're scarce, and HR contribute with the leave policy.
Yeah.
So for customer service leaders, that means mapping these dates to your own peak days and then asking what must never go down. That's important one. What must never go down? Don't freeze everything.
Yeah.
What journeys absolutely have to stay during this period? Keep it simple.
As importantly, planning early defeats the mad dash syndrome. All of that stuff getting rushed in at the last minute and actually causing a whole load of problems down the line. If a freeze is necessary, start communication at least 6 months before. Use simple, clear language to communicate the dates and make sure everyone understands their part in the process and what that process is.
And don't forget to include customer service in that planning phase. They need to lock in training calendars to get everybody up to speed. They've got to make sure they've got the right information available at their fingertips. test the different parts of the system that need to be ready to deal with this, and also ensure that every seasonal hire understands what the freeze means.
There's something about exception management. Understand your exception criteria up front. Prepare your forms in advance. Make sure that everyone knows what's going on. And you know what? There's something else as well. And I've seen this and I've been the victim of it. If you are going to have senior management sign off required for these things, make sure they know that being at the pub on Christmas Eve and then getting a call in
they should
saying,
answer it.
Can you attend this conference call and say something lucid and help us to make a decision? They might want to lay off the mince pies and sherry, or at least think about the possibility that they're going to get called into the front line. I've seen this happen before. Believe me, it's funny with hindsight. At the time, it is far from amusing.
The other thing is that organizations that get this right absolutely look at the data and their customer service metrics. First contact resolution, CSAT, customer effort scores, how many complaints they're getting as key success criteria for the freeze. Don't just look at uptime and incident counts. To me, those are meaningless metrics. Look at what the customer experience metrics are telling you.
Before we started this episode, I was thinking of a change freeze as something like an avalanche coming at you down a mountain. Now I'm looking at it as a nice, shiny, polished surface on a lake, the moon glinting on it, something beautiful to look at, something that your customer service teams can skate gracefully across rather than falling on their backsides.
Have you been on the sherry?
Just delivering the kind of experiences that people remember for all the right reasons.
Yeah. I mean, get it right. It will not be a car crash. Get it wrong. You've created one where there wasn't one.
Right, exactly.
So we'll be back next time with episode 7 after our Christmas break. So it's an ideal time for those of you that have not caught up to spend some time while you've got your feet up and a favorite beverage in your hand. Just go and have a listen to those episodes that you have not listened to.
In the meantime, follow the Angus and Pete Show page on LinkedIn for news and notifications, and message us directly to tell us what you want us to talk about, how we're doing, and keep the old post bag bulging.
The show's available on all your favorite podcast platforms, so listen, like, subscribe, and please share to help us spread the word and feed our egos. Pete,
yes,
before
Angus.
we go, it's joke of the week time.
It is. Before we do the joke, Angus, I've got a question for you.
Yep.
How do you do your Christmas shopping?
Online.
Do you? And when do you start doing your shopping?
Generally in December.
Really? My strategy for many years now has been to get my wife to buy all the stuff for everyone else, and I just buy her present.
Yep.
Which means I can leave it right to the last minute. So 4:00, Christmas Eve, you will see me walking around the shops, because actually you can get a bargain at that time. And because I'm mean, that plays to my sensibilities.
And it's a high-risk strategy.
Well, it is a high-risk strategy because it's worked perfectly, apart from last year, when I found myself with very limited retail options, and I ended up buying her a prosthetic leg. It was just a stocking filler. Should we get on with the joke?
Yeah, get on with the joke.
Okay, so before we started recording, I sent you an envelope. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, if you open the envelope now, you'll find inside a card, and on that card are written some words. When I give you the signal, because this is a participation joke, when I give you the signal, I want you to say exactly what's written on that card. Okay?
Okie dokes.
And we're going to do this in one. We're going to do this in one take. Okay? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Here we go.
Here it comes. It's Christmas Eve, and Bing Crosby is sitting in a bar having a glass of sherry on his own. Mm-hmm. And he looks up and he sees David Bowie walk in. David Bowie is looking miserable and depressed. And he walks up to Bing and he says, "Bing, I'm having a nightmare. I just don't know what to do." And Bing says, "David, tell me about it." And Bowie says, "My inflatable arse implants have deflated." Bing says, "Don't worry, David. you can borrow my rubber bum pump.
Your rubber bum pump?
My rubber bum pump. Merry Christmas, Angus.
Merry Christmas, Pete.
Thanks for tuning in to the Angus and Pete Show. Remember, it's based on the personal views and opinions of the hosts and their guests. If you're feeling aggrieved or litigious, take a chill pill. There's already enough stress in the world. Don't forget to follow our page on LinkedIn and subscribe on your favourite podcast platform for more episodes. We'll see you next time. Oh, and tell your friends.